Paul says in 2 Corinthians chapter 10, for though we walk in the flesh, we do not war after the flesh. Now the word flesh is the word sarx. We dealt with that in week 2. It's a manifestation of the human mind or mental faculty under the influence of the fallen nature of sin, and by extension the devil. For the weapons of our warfare are not carnal, but they are mighty through God to the pulling down of strongholds. Pause. He says the weapons of our warfare are not carnal. In essence, God is telling you that these weapons are spiritual. Are you with me? Would everybody agree? The Bible is making it clear that there is a spiritual war that has to be prosecuted. Now, Tony, if I said to you, the weapons of the warfare are not carnal, they're spiritual, you would expect me to begin to talk about dealing with demonic entities, right? They are mighty through God to the binding of demons, the pulling down of demonic altars, and the taking into captivity of every ungodly Elohim that sits in judgment over the nations, right? The next verse is very telling. Let's look at it. Very, very telling. It says, casting down what? Imaginations. And every high thing that exalts itself against the knowledge of God. Before that it says, mighty through God to the pulling down of strongholds. Now let's look at the phrase strongholds, because it will buttress the point that we are trying to make. So strongholds is one word in the Greek. Again, pardon. It's the word okruma. A castle, a stronghold, a fortress, a fastness, anything on which one relies, or the argument and reasonings by which a disputant endeavors to fortify his opinion and defend it against his opponent. Pause. Is God explaining to us, and of course we know what imagination is, obviously a faculty of the mental space, right? That's obvious to the naked eye, isn't it? And then we see exalting himself against the knowledge. Knowledge again is a component of the mental faculty, and bringing into captivity every thought. The message here is unmistakable. God counts as spiritual warfare primarily what occurs in the space of the mind. He just says the weapons of your warfare are not carnal, they're mighty through God, and then he lists 4 things which are pretty much exclusively confined to the mental realm. I want you to deep that for a minute. He says, the weapons of our warfare are not carnal, but they are mighty through God. And then he lists 4 different applications of spiritual warfare that all have to do with the mind. When you measure this vis-a-vis what we looked at last week, when Paul spoke about how there was a messenger of Satan assigned, a thorn in his sarx, his flesh, a faculty again of the mental space, whose job it was to prevent him from being exalted beyond measure. We now realize, Tony, that what we call spiritual warfare must encompass and traverse the realm that we refer to as mental health. Now, I waited till week 3 to come here because I know this is sensitive. And so let me remind you of my credentials. For instance, since we began this series, you have no idea, my wife will tell you, you have no idea the level of quote and unquote spiritual warfare I have been experiencing in the area of my quote and unquote mental health. I speak not as one who looks down on anybody. I speak as one with skin in the game. And I knew it would happen, which is one of the reasons I didn't want to go here. But the concept of our mental health or deficit thereof is, in my opinion, one of the primary battlegrounds for spiritual warfare in the life of any human being.